screen that there are a lot of names and not so many faces. So if there are people out there that can hear me and would like to be seen, can we see each other? Is that possible? Where are you all? Oh, this is brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. That's lovely. Really, really helpful if we can see each other. Because a very big part of good communication is to be able to see each other, isn't it? And we're already very limited on our Zoom. So if you can put yourself up there and that's okay with you, I'd love to see you. And some of you brave people are coming on. That's fantastic. Thanks ever so much. Well, I think you had probably quite a good introduction to me. I'm Rosie Alexander. I'm a counsellor, psychotherapist, and former children and family social worker. So I spent a lot of, and also someone who's got children of my own and grandchildren. So I seem to have spent a lot of my life around young people, which is fantastic because you're the ones with the energy and the new ideas, and you teach me a lot. The reason I'm here today is that for all of us, not just all of us in Britain, but all over the world, we've experienced a huge change in the way that we live. We've got this thing called a pandemic going on, which has altered all our lives. And when we go through transition, it can often have an effect on our wellness, our mental health and our wellness. And so it's just to check in really with you all today and see where you all are and to have a few ideas with you. I've put together some things talking particularly about anxiety. So I think to begin with, we're going to have a think about what anxiety is. The way I like to work workshops, if you haven't been to one of mine before, is I never mind if people chip in. So just, take your mute off and talk to me whenever you want to. If you've got a good idea, don't waste it, share it with us. Or if you don't agree with me, even better. I really want to hear about that. Because if you can persuade me, then I'll change my mind. And this is what conversation does. It changes our meaning. So good idea to have as much conversation as we can. But I've put together a few slides to talk about anxiety. Does anyone out there want to have a stab at what anxiety is? What do we think it is? Any ideas?
Worry.
Yeah, worry. Yeah, it is worry. What other ideas have we got for anxiety? When I say anxiety, what do you think of?
What did you say?
Left alone.
Left alone?
Did someone say left alone?
My son, Bailey, yeah.
Oh, Bailey, that's brilliant. You're thinking ahead of us all. Because sometimes with anxiety, we actually do get left alone. So yeah, that's really good. So we've got worry and we've got the potential to be left alone.
Is it dealing with our emotions and how we're feeling?
It is to do with our emotions and definitely the way we feel. Yeah. So if we were anxious, what sort of things might we be feeling?
Afraid.
Afraid? Yeah, we could. And what are we afraid of? What sort of things might we be worried or afraid of?
Maybe something that's happened at school, or maybe something that's happened at home.
Yeah, some sort of event or something that's happened that wasn't very nice. Yeah, or something unusual.
Something we're expecting to happen that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, some sort of idea in our head.
Yeah.
That maybe it hasn't even happened. Maybe it won't even happen, but it's nagging us, it's worrying us. And we start to feel anxious.
You can also have moments of like being afraid of general unknown.
Yeah, moments of general unknown. Wow. Well, certainly in this crisis, in this COVID crisis, Have we all had moments of unknown?
Yes.
Yes.
I have. I've had lots of moments of unknown. Will they get a vaccine? Will this ever end? When will we come out of this? All these unknowns.
What will happen next?
What will happen next? Yeah. Yeah. Do you think we've got more moments of unknown at the moment than we used to have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think that too. When will the schools open? What will it be like to go back to school? Will my friends still be at school? There's loads of unknowns, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we get too many unknowns, what do you think might happen?
It starts to build up in your head. You've got to talk about it.
Oh, you're fantastic. You know that? That is really good. It does build up in your head. And if you don't talk about it, what might happen?
It'll start to worry you.
Yeah.
And
How will it make you feel?
sad.
Yeah, you might feel sad and you might feel worried. And these are those signs of anxiety, aren't they?
Maybe somebody's got to do about something. Somebody's got to do something about it.
Yeah, somebody's got to do something about it. So you need ideas, don't you? How do you get ideas?
By talking about it.
Yep. Yep. Do we all have ideas?
Yeah.
I think we do. I have lots of ideas. And do we sometimes have different ideas from other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk to lots of people, we might get lots of ideas, mightn't we?
Yeah.
That's great. That is really good. You're clever at this stuff. You know that? Is anxiety normal?
No.
No?
I think it's very normal, because if someone hasn't got like anxiety, they're not worried about things, then like I'm not really sure, but they're a bit.
If they're not thinking about their worries, do you mean?
Yeah.
Lots of people have worries, don't they?
Yeah, they're not thinking about what will happen and what might occur.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I look at it, I think that we all have anxiety, yeah, because it helps us. It's useful.
Yeah.
But if we don't use it, if we don't actually use it in a way that's helpful to us and we let it build up, or we've got too much of it, then it can make us ill. So it's about realizing that things in life sometimes make us feel a bit anxious, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, just a little while ago, this is an example. I thought I was setting up the Zoom today, and somehow Christine and I got a bit mixed up about it. So I opened my Zoom meeting and no one came. And I started to feel a little bit anxious. I started to think, oh, where are they? Have I got the right day? Is this the right time? Do they want to come and see me? And I started to get a little bit anxious about that. And I think that's normal anxiety, isn't it? You know, when things are a little bit out of our control or change a little bit,
Yeah.
feel a little bit anxious. And that's normal.
Everybody's got to have something they're scared and anxious about.
Yeah, everyone does, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the dark very much. I'm not very good at the dark.
I don't like spiders or dark.
Yeah. And sometimes we can feel just a little bit anxious if we're in the dark or if we see a spider or whatever it is that gives us raised anxiety. And that won't change through your life very much. You will have times when you feel a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
But I suppose what we need to think about is, what can we do that's helpful? You know, what helps us when we're anxious? So I thought today we could think about what is anxiety and what helps us. And there's also this thing, this sort of little cycle that we can get stuck in with anxiety. And I want to talk about that a little bit. And the most common things that happen to us when we've got anxiety. So I'm just going to put a slide up and tell me if you can see it. Can you see that?
No.
Okay. So we need to enable some sharing, don't we? I don't know how we do that.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you share your screen?
enabled. You should be able to.
Hang on, let's just take that off again then and see if I can get it back on. Sorry guys, I won't keep you long. Oh look, let's have a look at this. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Hey, we got there, didn't we?
Yeah.
Thanks for your help, by the way. So this is what our objectives really. So we've got an opportunity to learn about and discuss some of the psychological and emotional effects of anxiety and stress. Learn about the role of anxiety in the loss process, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Explore personal anxiety processes and discuss keeping a personal anxiety diary. And a 5-minute, we can have as long as we like, personal consultation, discuss the plan. Okay, so that's pretty much what we want to look at today. And then I'd like to, how do I move these up? This thing's that, let me come back onto the big screen for a minute and then I'll go back into that one. How do I get back to you guys?
No, it's not all of that. That's just one.
Do you want to stop sharing?
Yeah, I'm just going to stop sharing. Great, thank you. Stop sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just not very techie, you know that? I bet all you guys are. I bet you're much quicker at this than I am. So thanks for your patience. So let's think about that idea of the connection between loss, change, or transition and anxiety. Yeah. So if you think about the idea that we get more anxious when we're less in control or we've got more unknown things. And we did say just now, don't we? There's loads of unknowns in the COVID thing, isn't there? So when we get a lot of unknowns, we get a bit overwhelmed and we feel less in control. So we're less able to plan our days. We're less able to be assured that the future will look at a certain way. And the things that are usual and normal to us have changed. Is that all of us in lockdown? Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't get to see the same people, do we? We don't go to the same places. We can't shop, you know, it's just so when all those things come together, we feel a sense of loss and we're in a place of transition. We're not in the old place we know, and we're not sure about the new place that's coming. So we're in the middle, we're in transition. And that time is the time when you're most likely to start to feel a bit more worried than usual or to get a bit anxious. Yeah. So this is to do with loss. It's to do with loss of the things we knew, loss of the days and the schedules we used to use to survive in our lives. And loss causes anxiety. And I've got a little picture which I'll share with you. You see this one? Can you see it on your screens? Is it big enough for you to see? Can you see it?
Small.
Let's see if we can make it bigger. Oh, we can make it bigger, but we can't get it all on, can we? Is that any bigger?
Yeah, this is okay. Yeah.
Can you all see it? Yeah. Do you want it a little bit bigger again if I can do it? Let me have a go. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can you all see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been put together by people that work with loss and bereavement. Yeah. So the loss might be that someone's died, or one of your friends has moved away, or for the grown-ups, it might be that you've lost your job, but it's any sort of loss or change. And we look at this. Yeah. And if you think about COVID, and if you think right back to when it first began, can you remember that when it first began? Can you remember Boris Johnson coming on the telly and saying, we're going to lock you all down and your schools are going to close? Can you remember all that?
Yeah.
Can you think back for a minute and think about how you felt when that first happened? What were sort of feelings were around when that happened?
Well, I felt worried because I thought somebody was gonna get somebody was gonna die or maybe get the COVID.
Yeah. So it was quite frightening for some of us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What other feelings were around when we got locked down?
Scared.
Scared, yeah. So that you were scared, frightened,
I almost felt a little bit trapped
trapped, yeah.
because I would normally use going out and seeing people as a way to escape the stresses of home life, and then with them being locked down, I had nowhere to go, I had nowhere to leave.
Yeah. And there's a big loss in that as well, isn't there? Because you can't go. And you can't spend the same time in the same way with your friends, can you?
No.
So there's losses and there's fears. And it was quite sudden. Do you think it was quite sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it quite for me, it felt like it was quite sudden. It was quite shocking. You know, it's quite hard for me to get my head around it.
Mhm.
I remember waking up the next morning and thinking, we're in this thing called lockdown. What does that mean, you know? Oh, I can't go into work and I can't, there's so many can'ts in it. And I did feel quite shocked. Did anyone else feel shocked? Did anyone else find themselves trying to remind themselves that we can't do things now?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a funny place because you're distorted, aren't you? You don't quite know what's going to happen or how it's going to work or if it's going to all be all right. So you're in this first part of this curve. You're in the shock and this disorientation, not really knowing when you'll be going to school or if you can go to your friends or whether you can go to the shops. And with that confusion, you get anxious. You get worried and you get anxious. And if we get worried and anxious, we can start to lose our confidence a little bit. Did anyone experience that?
Yes.
Yeah, did you feel less able to do things or feel a little less able to take risk?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got very frightened about it at one point because they said, oh, you can get it off of paper and it can be on surfaces. And do you remember that when they kept talking about things like that? And I remember when the post came through the front door, I didn't want to pick it up. I thought I'd just leave that. If I leave it for a couple of days, then it'll be safe in case there was coronavirus on it. And, that shows how worried I was about it. That's a symptom of the worry, isn't it? Anyone else got any stories of the particular things that worried them when that happened? Did anyone think you were going to catch it?
I was more worried for my nan than I was myself.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was living with her. And I was more panicking about how she would cope if, say, like, you know, I brought it into the household or something like that. That was my main panic about the coronavirus when it all started.
Yeah. And did it change your behaviour in any way?
Yes, in a sense, I was more wary of other people because for a couple of weeks I still had to attend school, and I was more distancing myself from people, you know, just in case, because
Yeah.
I knew she was one of the vulnerable ones. And then this was why I was quite confused on how to feel when we went into a lockdown, because I was almost relieved that I didn't have to have that worry anymore. But there was also that panic of feeling a little bit trapped of, oh, well, I know I don't have an escape route anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that conflict is real, isn't it? You know, there's a part of it that makes it more okay, but there's a part of it that actually makes it more difficult. Yeah. And that's a funny place to be, isn't it? In that sort of conflicting place of two different emotions. Yeah. And I think there was a whole gambit of emotion, but I recognized the sort of the shock and the confusion to start with. And then I found myself getting quite cross with it at times. Did anyone feel cross about it? You know, I wish
Yep.
this coronavirus would go away. This isn't fair. Did you feel like that? Anyone
Yeah.
feel like that? Yeah. Or I find myself blaming, I don't know, blaming the government or blaming anyone I could blame because I was cross. Did you feel like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Frustrated, I think is the word. I was frustrated and, oh, I've had enough of this now. I just want my life back.
It was. It was so. This is it.
Yeah. So there's lots of different emotions come with this transition. And I think what's nice about today is that when I'm saying, oh, I felt like this or I felt like that, other people are saying, yeah, I felt a bit like that, or what I felt was this. And it's so important to share what you felt. So important. Because sometimes if we don't, we can think it's only us. You know, I'm a bit mad because I don't pick up my letters for 48 hours. But I don't think I'm really a bit mad. I just think I didn't know what to do because I didn't understand it and I was frightened. So I just tried to make myself as safe as I could. And this is what happens when we get more anxiety than we can deal with. We look for ways of trying to make ourselves as safe as we can because we're clever. You know, human beings are clever. If it hurts and makes you frightened, you tend to avoid it. But the problem sometimes is is we start to avoid the things that will help us as well. So we might think, oh, I feel really anxious, I don't want to go out. So we don't go out and then we don't meet people. And then we become less confident. You know, when I talk to you today and I say the stuff that was happening to me and you say, oh yeah, I felt a bit of that. Or yeah, I was angry. I blamed things, anything I could blame because I was angry. It makes me realize that I'm okay. You know, it gives me an okayness. And so when we share our feelings and other people can sort of join in with that, it reminds us that we're okay. And it's really helpful. So listening to people's feelings, listening to your friends' feelings, and opening discussions like this one. What did you feel like when this happened? Can be really helpful because it gives us a healthy conversation to have with others and makes it okay to talk about this stuff. So yeah, there was the anger stage that I went through. Did anyone feel any emptiness in this?
Yeah.
Did you ever get any sense of emptiness? I don't. You may or may not. I'm just interested.
Yeah.
Someone said, yeah.
I miss my cousins. Miss your cousins.
Someone was missing their cousins. That's hard, isn't it? Missing people. That's an empty feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to completely change my routine because when I'm delivering training, I often go there. You know, if it wasn't for COVID today, I'd be in the same room with all you guys, which would be really lovely, but I can't. But I go there. So that's journey time. It's getting ready. It's taking stuff with me. It's all those little things that suddenly went away. And I also work as a psychotherapist. So people come to my practice and see me to talk, and they can't come anymore. So these big changes in my day left me to begin with big spaces that I didn't know what to do with, really. I didn't know how to fill them.
You almost end up with like too much time on your hands to know
Yeah.
what to do with, and then that makes you feel empty because you just feel like you're not doing anything.
Yeah, and that empty, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point of getting up if I've got nothing to do? What's the point? And although I guess maybe you did this as well, I filled my spaces with, I don't know, gardening and cooking new recipes and painting walls and all that stuff. And to begin with, some of it was good fun and to get some stuff done. But in the end, I just couldn't do that anymore. I don't know if you got to there, did you?
Yeah.
I just couldn't keep doing chores. I wanted people. I wanted fun.
Yeah.
So that kind of emptiness, and what's the point? And then there's this idea of yearning. Do we know what yearning is?
Is it like wanting something?
Yeah, it's really wanting something. Do you know the really wanting something feeling? It's almost in your tummy. You want it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's yearning. Do you know my yearning was for my grandchildren? They live in Edinburgh, so there's no chance of them coming to see me at all. And I haven't seen them for over a year now. And there's a lot of things I didn't miss too much, but there's almost like a yearning to see them. Other people get yearnings? And a sadness? And then there's this sort of middle bit, right in the middle here, which they've labelled depression. Anyone get any depression?
Yes.
Yes. What sort of things what did it feel like? What was happening when you were feeling depressed?
I mean, I felt a little bit lost within
Mm.
myself.
Mm.
I kind of lost sight of who I was a little bit,
Yeah.
and started like turning on my family almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't suppose it's a worrying depression that we're having, but it's not surprising that we can get a bit depressed. It can feel hard to do things.
It would be said really upset.
Yeah, and you can feel really upset. Yeah.
Yes.
And you sort of lose your mojo. You lose the energy to do things. You're less motivated. Did anyone get that stuff? You can't be bothered. Yeah. And then somewhere along the line, you start to think, well, actually, I'm getting a bit used to this now. And it's almost like a new normal in some ways, isn't it? Because you've cleverly adapted. We don't know we're doing it, but we're cleverly adapting. Because our job as humans is to survive. Whatever happens, our job is to survive. And so we've done this clever adaptation. We've kind of learned a new way to do stuff. And this is like an acceptance. You stop trying to push back, and you stop trying to be angry with it, and you stop trying to keep wanting the old life back, and you start to settle a little bit into this. This is what I do now. And it's not too bad, and it's not actually it didn't turn out as horribly scary as I thought it would. And of course, at the same time as you're evolving through this, the process of the pandemic's evolving. So we maybe have got to a bit more of living with it now. But also we've got these things called hope. We've got a vaccine. We've got the lifting of lockdown in place, the roadmap. We realise now that we're probably more likely to survive it perhaps than we knew we were at the beginning. So we've kind of adapted the way we are. And we've also got some hope. So once we get to that place, we start to move and we start to come up. And then we find as we can do a little more in our new normal, and our confidence starts to increase and we start to feel a bit better. And there's some of us already starting to actually let go of the old normal. Have you ever heard those conversations that people have about, oh, maybe when we come out of lockdown, we could do things differently, or we could work from home a bit more than we used to, or maybe we don't have to go back to the same place. We could go to a place that's even better. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there things actually in this lockdown that you'd like to keep, or bits of things that you would like to keep in your new normal?
What would you like to keep in the normal way?
What things have you done in lockdown that you might think, well, actually, I quite like that. I'm going to keep that.
Having more time with my family.
Yeah, it might be that. You've really realised that that's actually really nice to have actually more time with your family. Yeah. Yeah. I used to paint with watercolours years and years and years ago. And I've spent years and years saying, I must paint again. I must start painting again. And in lockdown, that's what I did. I went out and bought some paints and brushes and I started to do a bit of painting again. And when I did that, I realised how good it was for me. Not just the fun of it, but how good it was for my head and how good it was for me and my mental health. It took me away from all the pressure and anxiety for a little while. And I liked it, enjoyed it. So I've decided I'm going to keep that in my new normal. I'm going to make space for that because it's good for me.
That's what my dad done.
Is that what your dad did?
Yeah.
Yeah. What other things have people done that they perhaps wouldn't have done?
I mean, I got back into and like picked up some of my like old hobbies and habits that like life almost kind of got in the way of me doing, and I got like too busy to do it. Then obviously being forced to spend all day every day at home, you have this newfound time where you pick back up them things you used to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't this amazing? Aren't human beings incredible? You know, we're given this horrible situation and it's not long before we start working it to our advantage. And I think whatever we don't do in our new normal, hold on to it. Think about this and hold on to it. Because there will be times in our lives, whether we like it or not, where things are not going to be easy. They're going to be a little more difficult. And that idea that we can adapt is so important, isn't it? You know, we know that if people have suffered a loss, the next loss that they suffer won't be as bad for them because they've got these strategies and they recognize them. And that's what we've all done. We're so clever. We've found strategies. You know, with my emptiness, that was way back here somewhere. Where was the emptiness? There it is. The emptiness and the what's the point became increasingly confident and feeling better because I found the point and I filled the emptiness. I filled it with things that I didn't know I would choose to, but I did find things and I filled the emptiness. And so I adapted. I did the best I could with what I'd got. And that's what you've all done. You're all here and you've all survived. So you've done something good and something wonderful. But I suppose what I'd like just to remind you of, I expect, because you know anyway, is don't forget that. Because if there are other times when you're suffering a loss or feeling anxious, remember that you did it, you made the transition. And I suppose the other thing I've done is I've let go a bit of that yearning for the old normal, whatever it was. You know, that I don't know that I want the old normal. I want bits of it. And as we open up, hopefully I'll get those bits. But I know now I don't want the same. So I've kind of let go of that idea that it's got to be just as it was. Because actually, just as it was, wasn't without any worries or complaints. It's given me time to think about, what do I really want? So I suppose that gives me that sort of reorganization. I've reorganized what I want. I've had time to reflect and think. And I am ready to move on. So I think I'm somewhere around this bit here of wanting to test the reality and move up this side. I think that's where I am. And you might look at it and think, well, I'm here, or I'm here, or I'm already above here. I don't know where you are, somewhere. And it's not a race, and we can be anywhere. And we might find ourselves moving back and then moving forward and then moving back a bit again. But this is how we work as humans with change. We will go through a little curve, something like that, at different rates of movement, depending on what's happening. And you'll have different days. Some days I'll feel really, really quite confident and quite happy and hopeful. And then I'll get another day where I'm feeling a bit fed up again down here, because it's not moving fast enough, or because, I just can't fill all the space today. So that will move. But what I like about this curve is it reminds us that this is a journey. So it doesn't matter what you feel at the moment. Even if you wanted to stay with that feeling, you can't. You will move. The world will evolve and you'll evolve. So it's all about movement and trusting that because you're clever, you'll find the best way of doing that. So I don't know if that helps, but I like that little chart. And I think we've got this recorded, haven't we? So it might be that if you would want that chart, you can access it afterwards. So I'm just going to take that off for a minute. Come back into the room with you. Wow. I don't know what happens on your screen when I do that, but mine's great. It just all comes to life with all these lovely faces and people. So it's nice to be back. Are there any of you that didn't mean anything to? Is there anyone there that just thinks that didn't apply to me at all? Or are there any questions about that? No? Okay. But if it's useful to you and if you recognize it, hold on to it somewhere in your head or access it somewhere, because life is such that we always have losses and we always get gains. Yeah, right. If we live long enough, we'll have losses and gains. And you can apply that little chart to any loss. And I like it because it gives me energy. It makes me think about this idea that we're not stuck. The worst place for us is if we feel stuck. We're not stuck. And whatever we're feeling, it won't last. And whatever you're feeling, someone else has felt or is feeling. So those conversations, talking is so important in this. If we want to keep healthy anxiety levels, we need to talk.
Hi, Rosie. Have you got a name for that chart?
Yeah, it's called a Wee-Chi chart. Do you want me to spell that?
Please, yes.
Hang on, let's just put it back up.
Okay.
Can you still hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's WEI, and then it's CHEI.
Okay, Wee-Chi.
2 words, Wee-Chi.
Okay.
But if you just looked for, I don't know, bereavement cycle, loss chart, Wee-Chi chart, anything like, Google it. You will find that It's very well known. It was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross originally was the bereavement specialist that put it together, because of all the research shows us that those are the stages as humans we go through. It's not an absolute A to Z. You know, you won't go 1, 2, 3, 4 around that chart. You'll find that you might slip back and come forward again. But that's basically the shape of a loss or change curve in any of us.
Yeah.
And you can't not go through it. That's the good news. Yeah. You can't not go through it. So you won't get stuck, because eventually you'll move. And anything that's happening to you in the way of your feelings at the moment are part of a journey. They're not the end of the book. So we're not going to get stuck anywhere. We're going to keep moving. But with the right strategies and lots of conversation, you'll move a bit quicker. I just want to think about that idea of anxiety and what it does to us. So if we're feeling anxious, we're in a place where we're likely to take less risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeling frightened, you're not ready to take any more risk, are you? So if you're feeling frightened, you're more protective of yourself. And when you're doing that, what's likely to happen?
You become closed off.
Yeah, that's it, Jade. You got it. In Awana. You start to pull yourself inward and you get a bit closed off. You know, if the world out there feels like a frightening place because you might bang into someone and catch coronavirus, then it makes sense perhaps not to go out there, doesn't it? If you're losing your confidence and there's an opportunity to do something, but it will challenge you, you're less likely to do it if you're feeling less confident. So again, you close off an opportunity. And we term this way of behaving as avoidant. Yeah, you avoid risk, you avoid new situations, you avoid people, you avoid awkward conversations, you avoid anything that's got risk if you're feeling anxious, because it's just too scary. Yeah. But then you get into a little cycle, and I'm just going to put up this other slide. See if I can move this up. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you still see it?
Yeah.
Good. Just so I can get it all on the screen. And this is an avoidant behavior cycle, yeah? And this is how we get ourselves deeper into anxiety. Yeah. So you start to feel anxious, and then you avoid things. You start to avoid things. So maybe you don't talk to anyone about it. You avoid conversation, because sometimes just talking about it is, I don't know, you might find it embarrassing, or you might find it awkward, or you might find it that, you know, even talking about it makes you feel a bit more worried. So you avoid it. You just do everything you can to avoid it. If I'm worried about going outside because I might catch something, I won't go outside. If, you know, we avoid the thing that worries us. So once we get into this avoidant behavior, we then close ourselves off. And when we close ourselves off, we lose confidence and we lose the sense, someone said, the sense of their self. You start to wonder who you are really. Because what we know, and this is a really interesting point, what we know is we actually are what people tell us we are. Does that make sense? So when I say, oh, you're really clever, in your head, you hold that. If you value the person that said that to you and you believe that person, you hold that as a truth. And the less we communicate with others, the less feedback we get. And then we've only got our own sense of self to deal with. And if we're feeling anxious, it often follows that we're not very kind to ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves quite as much as we would ordinarily. And we're avoidant, so we're not getting the feedback. So this leads to this sort of loss of confidence place. You start to wonder who you are, or you start to doubt your own ability, or you're not sure if people like you, or you're not sure if, you know, all those things come into your sort of confidence and your self-esteem. And then when you start to feel like that, your anxiety goes up. That increases your anxiety because you think, oh, I'm not very good at anything, or I don't know if people would like me to talk to them, or I don't know whether I will be accepted. And you get more anxious. And then as you get more anxious, to try and keep yourself safe in the anxiety, you avoid more. And you go round and round in this circle and you get deeper and deeper in it. And that's a really, really horrible place for people to go. And of course, there's no need for you to go there. So a good strategy, I think, for that is to just take a minute and think about, who can I talk to? Who would I talk to if I was feeling anxious? Who would I talk to?
Mum and Dad.
Mum and Dad.
The teachers.
Yeah.
Julie.
Yeah.
She's from Mary Help.
So it sounds as if there are lots of people for you to talk to.
Yeah.
Family.
And what happens when you talk to them?
How do you feel when you talk to them?
It feels better.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It feels better. Yeah. It's better than thinking, isn't it? Talking is better than thinking. Because it's almost like we're sharing it. And it's like someone else knows. And someone else is with us in it. And that gives us strength and comfort. And that strength and comfort helps us to take the first step out of any avoidant behaviour. You know, if I say, for me, I'm a bit worried about going out in anywhere that's a bit crowded, because I've become a bit worried about people being too near people. And if I tell my friend that, the person I can talk to, and my friend says, well, we'll go, but if it's crowded, we'll make an agreement that we'll just leave, we'll just walk away together. Then I feel better and I feel more able to go and try. Whereas if I don't tell anyone, I might just think, oh, I'm not going. So it's, you know, finding that strength in the other person and that support. What about the grown-ups in the room? Where do they go? Who do they talk to?
They talk to each other.
Do they? Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Yeah.
They could talk to their parents.
And they talk to their parents. Wow, this is nice, isn't it? We're all kind of using other people to talk to. Yeah.
Our friend.
And anyone you feel will understand. You can talk to anyone. That's what Ruby says. Anyone you feel will understand.
Yeah. So you choose the right person, don't you? You choose someone who you feel safe with. Yeah. And you choose someone who'll listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about someone that I can tell anything to, and they don't go, oh, or they don't disapprove of me, or they don't make some sort of judgment of me. They just listen to me. Because I don't really need them to tell me what to do. I just need to say it out loud and to feel held and comforted. So I try and find those people that are good at listening. So for good conversation, we need the very brave person to come forward and say, I need to talk about this. And then we needed the other person to be the really good listener who actually just listens and says, is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
So that's how it works, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
A problem
that-
shared is a problem halved.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we know what it says.
Yeah.
It's our little motto.
Yeah. So if we share it lots of times, we're going to make it smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So finding the people to talk to, so important. And you're clever enough. You're all clever enough to know that, aren't you? Yeah. Because that little horrible little cycle is horrible, isn't it? If you get into that, it's really not a nice place to be. So to jump out of a cycle, we have to find the right place to jump out. And I think this should say anxiety and increased anxiety. And I think you should jump out when you get the word anxiety. When you start to feel worried, that's the time when you go and think, who shall I tell this to?
Yeah.
So you share it out. Let's see if I can stop sharing this for a minute. Yeah. So does that make sense, that little triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone got any examples of when they think that might have been happening to them?
Got an example?
Shall I give you an example? Sometimes when I'm frightened of the dark, and I am quite frightened of the dark, and because I'm a bit older now, I've realised that I'm probably always going to be a bit frightened of the dark. So I've stopped fighting it, and I've stopped trying to say, "Oh, get over it," and all those things. And I just accept that's part of me now. So I just like to have some good strategies. And so if I wake up in the night and for some reason I have to come downstairs, I don't really want to come downstairs because in case the bogeyman's down here, yeah? Well, I can assure you the bogeyman's never been down here. And while it's broad daylight and I feel fairly safe and I'm not sleepy, I think it's nonsense because there's no bogeyman downstairs. That's nonsense. But sometimes if I wake up in the night, and especially I've had a funny dream, and then it's dark, and then I have to go downstairs where it's dark, I don't feel comfortable. I feel a bit worried. And I might even think, oh, did I hear a noise? And I don't like it. I'm quite uncomfortable. So what I do, because I've got a really nice partner, is I'm able to, I've got a That's Like Me, thank you. And because I've got a really nice partner, I'm able to gently say, Will, I'm a bit frightened to go downstairs. And I choose him because he was not likely to say, oh, don't be silly. Or, well, there's nothing down there. What are you worried about? He doesn't do any of that. He's quite clever, I think. He says, oh, fantastic. I'll come with you. And isn't that nice? And then he says, I'll tell you what, I'll kill the bogeyman. And I say, will you? And he says, yeah, too right, I will. And I'll come with you. And just that sense that he'll come with me, or the sense that he's awake, so I don't feel on my own with it. And then it's not scary. And then, of course, I come downstairs and there's no bogeyman at all. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's in my head or whether it's real. If it's giving me anxiety, then I need to find strategies to help me, don't I? And that's the strategy I use. And this is what this is about. It's not thinking, oh, I shouldn't be anxious, or only certain people get anxious. We all get anxious, and we all have ideas that aren't truths, but they're still worrying. So it's about finding those strategies. What helps us? And when we're on the other side of that and someone's worried, It might not make sense to us. We might think, oh, but that doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be worrying about that. But of course they are. So what's important is to find with them ways that will help them. So does that example make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
And you might want to take that example and convert it to yours, because you'll have some worries. We all have worries. It's part of life. And you might just think, what is it that worries me? Where do I take it? And what do I want the other person to do or say, or not to do or not to say? What helps me to go to that other person, and what would stop me from going? What sort of things might stop you from talking to another person about your worries?
They've got enough to worry about themselves.
Yeah, you don't want to burden them. Yeah.
If you're worried about
Sorry, Sally, you broke up a little bit. What did you say?
if you're worried about what they think.
If you're worried about, thank you. And sorry, I didn't hear you the first time. Yeah, if you're worried about what they think. Yeah. Yeah, that's a real stopper, isn't it, that one? If they think I'm going, if they think I'm silly, or if they think I'm not really feeling this way, or if they, yeah, there's lots of those things that if they think. So you don't tell them, do you? What else might stop you? Someone's just put a little chat on my screen, which is really helpful. This is really good. It says that they like to talk to their friend because their friend is the best person to talk to, because they're their friend. This idea that you accept each other because you're friends. And that is clever. Because what our research shows us is most people will choose someone of a similar age or circumstance to themselves to talk to. So 14-year-olds are more likely to talk to 14 or 15-year-olds than they would be to talk to me. And that's to do with a difference in power, or a perceived difference in power. You know, if you feel more equal to someone, you're more likely to talk to them, because they're less likely to kind of tell you off or be bossy or tell you what to do. But they're at a similar level of strength to yourself. So that's interesting, isn't it? So you might be looking for someone like that. And also people tell me in their families that sometimes it's difficult to talk to other people in their families. Do you know why? Why might it be sometimes difficult to talk to someone who's in your family?
They might be going through the same situation as you, so you feel like they wouldn't necessarily understand how you're viewing it because it's the same situation.
Yeah. So they might assume that it's the same for you as it is for them, and it might be different. Yeah. There's also that sense of burdening them. You know, I better not tell mum, she'll only worry. That sort of thing. Yeah, some of that, isn't there? I don't want to worry her or upset her or upset him, or, you know, I don't want to do that. So yeah, it's not always the case that it's easy to talk to your family. Sometimes it is, absolutely. But this is about choosing the right people. Sometimes people like to talk to me because I'm sort of independent. I'm not emotionally attached to them. You know, I want to be helpful and I'd be concerned, but I won't be worried to death by it, you know? So there's no rules about who you talk to. It's about finding people that you feel safe to talk to and talking to them. Some people like people talk to people that don't know anything about them and don't know them. So for the adults out there, you know, places like the Samaritans, where you just phone and you'll talk to someone who's trained just to listen to you. And you can talk. And it's completely confidential. And they just help you to say the way you feel and to have ideas about what next, really. And a lot of people find that really useful because it's not someone that knows them. So the idea that, you know, the idea that we choose the people that we talk to is really important. And of course, we're the people that other people talk to, aren't we? Sometimes. So really thinking about, how do I listen? How do I listen? And if I do say anything, is it more or less useful? Can be really, really helpful just to hold that in mind. I'm able to wake Will up at night and say I'm a bit scared of going downstairs because I know he won't judge me. I know he won't tell me I'm silly. I know he won't be cross and say, don't wake me up. So I know that that's safe. So there's a little strategy, isn't there? Talking or listening and opening conversations, you know, taking those opportunities to open conversations about feeling. And I just got another chat there that says that the only person they like to talk to is their parents, and that's brilliant. There's no rules, you know, whoever it is that you feel safe to talk to them. And it's, I suppose what I'm saying is it's different for different people. Some people like people that don't know them so well, and some people don't. Some people like people that know them well. Just find the ones that work for you. I just want to move on a little bit with my slides. Yeah, this is just a little more about the avoidant behavior, this vicious circle that results in it. And it can lead to deeper depression and anxiety. And there is a reference there, but I know this is being recorded. So if you wanted to look up more, then you could look at that reference. And there's a little exercise here, yeah, where we could spend a few minutes thinking about any losses you may have experienced just before you noticed any symptoms of anxiety. So you might just take a minute here and just think about, when have I felt anxious? And can I link that to any losses? So that's what we'll do. We'll just take a minute to think about that. So what did we think about? Were there any losses and any links to anxieties amongst you?
when my pets died.
Hmm. Can you remember your feelings around that, Sally?
Sad,
Yeah.
worried.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's that worried, that word worried. That's that anxiety, isn't it? It's a little bit anxiety lifting when we're worried. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember any sort of symptoms in your body? Did anything happen in your or change in your body? It may have done and it may not have done. But I'm just thinking about those signs and symptoms around anxiety. So it's not all in the head. It will be in the body as well. You might find that you don't eat in the same way. You might get a loss of appetite.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we find that we need lots and lots of comforty junk food rather than perhaps the normal food. We might find ourselves eating more, eating less, or eating things with higher sugar or higher fat content. And again, this is us trying to find ways to comfort ourselves.
Yeah. Definitely.
Do you know? Yeah, there's a definite out there. Who's the definite?
Me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you know, yeah. And you know, we're not kind to ourselves sometimes. We're really not kind to ourselves, and we can find ourselves really kind of being quite unkind to ourselves because we've done that, because we've eaten too much junk or we've, you know, whatever we've done. But I think you have to hold in mind that, you know, this is a difficult time and sometimes we will do things like that. We'll look for more comfort. If we find ourselves doing it continually, then we might have to sort of have a word with ourselves. But generally, I don't think we should be too critical of ourselves. You know, we should try and understand that actually things aren't great at the moment, and that's perhaps one of the strategies we're using. A strategy you might want to use at that time is to just get a pen and paper and write down all the things you like about yourself. You know that? You can still eat your crisps while you're doing it. Don't take them away at this point. But actually just make some notes in your head or on a bit of paper about what you like about you. Because in terms of your self-esteem, it's a very clever little trick to do. What do I like about me? You know, just to start reminding ourselves that we're all valuable and that we're all lovely and that we're all lovable. And we are, but sometimes in this stuff, we can start to forget that and our self-esteem can get a bit lower. Or ask someone that really cares about you and loves you what they like about you. It's a great strategy for your self-esteem. Go and ask them, why do you like me? So they can remind you.
Have a positive book.
Yeah, yeah.
One of them. There's one of them.
Yeah.
Is that
You've got
good?
one there.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Have a positive book.
Have a positive book. I love the idea of that. And this idea that in our society, you know, we might not all originate from a British society, but we're living in one, and it's quite influential in our lives. We're not very good at blowing our own trumpets. There's this idea of modesty and you know, and I think you might not want to be forever telling someone how wonderful you are because they might get a little bored in the end. But I think you should keep reminding yourself of who you are and the wonderfulness of you, because it builds your confidence. And if you're feeling confident and able to get out in the world and take risk, you're much more useful to others. So it's actually good for all of us if we feel confident, isn't it? So never be afraid to remind yourself how valuable you are. If I was to go around the room today, the Zoom room, and just say, get you to say one thing you like about yourself, could you do it? One thing that you like about you.
Either you've got to think of one thing that you like about yourself. What do you like about yourself?
Well, I'm creative.
Okay.
Go and say it then.
Go on,
Yeah.
My hair,
say it.
you see.
I heard that you're creative. Yeah. And what about you two? What about, I've got David on the screen, but I don't have a name for you, I'm afraid.
Dave, oh, Mark, Bailey and Nikki.
Oh, okay. What about you, Mark?
Caring.
Yeah. Go on, you go. You go.
I think
Just-
I'm a good listener.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a good listener. But do you see how difficult it is, Mark? And that's a part of this society we live in. You know, we're not used to, are we? Saying what we're good at or saying the things.
Putting me on the spot.
Yeah. Sorry, honey. Don't be on the spot. I'll move on. I will move on. But it is sometimes difficult, isn't it? You know, there's not a lot of room for us to say how good we are, how wonderful we are. But actually remembering how wonderful we are is good for our confidence and our self-esteem.
I like to think I'm a good husband to my wife.
And dad.
Yeah. And that was rather lovely what happened there. You struggled to find what it was, but the people that know you best told you, didn't they? You know, you're a good dad and you're caring. That's what I learned about you. You're a good dad and you're caring. And it is important, you know, it's so important what the gifts we give one another when we give them honest and good feedback. Never miss an opportunity to tell someone how you value them, because it's so good for them. It's good for their self-esteem. And actually for you, you know, to think about yourselves. What are you good at? Why are you wonderful? I don't doubt you're all wonderful, but do you tell yourself this? Do you look at it? We seem much quicker at telling ourselves off than we do at congratulating ourselves. And that's not always a helpful mindset. You know, you just might want to stand in front of the mirror sometime and say, what do I like about me? What do I like about me? So what about others? What do they like about themselves? And the room went quiet.
I like that I'm a really good big sister to my little sister.
Yeah, there you are. What a wonderful quality. That is a great quality, isn't it? Being a good sister.
I'm beautiful.
You are beautiful. You are really beautiful. Any others? What is it about you that you like?
I'm good at looking after animals.
You're good at looking after animals, so you're kind and caring. Yeah, and you're proficient at it. You do it well. Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? So you're very valuable. We need you. And what about others? What are you good at? What do you like about you?
I'm funny.
You're funny. Funny's so good, isn't it? Funny is the thing that gives us energy. That's amazing.
I'll definitely agree with that one. You need laughter in your life.
Oh, you so need to laugh, don't we? We so
Yes.
need to laugh. Yeah. And of course, when we laugh, we produce very good chemicals in our brain that are very good for us. Yeah. What about others?
I'm well trusted by friends and family.
Yeah. So you're trustworthy, aren't you? Yeah. That's a lovely position, Jade, isn't it? I love the idea that you can trust someone. That's so beneficial for people that you're trustworthy.
It
Yeah.
also increases my sense of self-worth because it shows people value me.
Yeah. So it works for both, doesn't it? Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important that we can trust, and you provide that. And it's good for you because you know that people know that. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. What about others? What are we good at? What do we like about ourselves?
I like the fact that I'm able to work with different people, no matter their personality. I'm able to work with people, no matter how they are. I try to adjust myself.
Yeah. Isn't that nice? You recognize that flexibility and the ability to work with whoever's in front of you. And we've all got things in common, all of us, even when to begin with, you might not think you've got much in common. I think if you spend a bit of time with someone, you'll find it. You will find that connection. But that's a lovely quality, isn't it? To be able to work with other people. Any more?
I like giving and sharing.
Giving and sharing. Yeah. Yeah. That's lovely, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
so-
well, I think so. And I'm absolutely sure you're giving and sharing. Yes.
Yeah.
You're putting your time today into this, aren't you, to give? And it's a lovely thing. Yeah. So we've all got them. Everybody's got quality. But sometimes we can get lost and we can lose our sense of ourselves if others aren't picking it up and telling us. And if we're spending a lot of time either on our own or not with too many others, we're getting less feedback. With less human contact, you get less feedback. And it's the feedback that reminds us who we are. So don't miss those opportunities. You know, if you see something nice about someone, you know, be lovely and brave and say, I think you're whatever, or I like the way you do whatever. Because you're adding to their self-worth. And we need it. So it's another little strategy, isn't it? Adding to self-worth. I'm just going to see what's next on my slideshow.
What did you say?
Smithy's feedback.
Oh, this just looks about this flight and fight response.
Yeah, fight, flight response.
Do we know about that?
No.
I'll tell you a little bit about it then. Should we just have a little check in with that? There are two things that happen to us when we get very worried or very frightened.
This is important, isn't it?
Well, there's actually three because sometimes we freeze. But what you might find is you either want to get angry or you want to run away. Yeah. So that's fight or flight. And do you recognize that sometimes if something suddenly happens or something really worries you, that you either want to run away from it or you get really angry and you want to push it or punch it or get it away? Do you know those two mechanisms?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens when we're really worried. And we might find ourselves getting really angry. Is anger a good thing or a bad thing, or what sort of thing is anger?
Anger can be good.
It can be good, yeah. Do you want to
Because
say a little bit more? Yeah.
It can motivate you sometimes,
Yeah.
or give you the little push you needed to do something, but obviously sometimes it can have a negative effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's a bit of a propeller. It gets you moving, doesn't it? If I get cross about something, if I get cross enough, I want to change it. It gives me power. It makes me want to really change it because I'm so cross about it. And that's the motivator. So anger can be a really good thing, can't it? Is it just a good thing?
It can be negative as well.
In what way can it be negative, Jade?
You could end up becoming destructive, like self-destructive, or even, you know, physically violent sometimes, or aggressive towards others, and that can put you in bad situations.
Yeah, yeah. And I think because that can happen in extremes, sometimes we're a little bit worried about anger, or it doesn't get all the good reputation that it deserves. Sometimes people think of anger as something that's almost to be avoided. Do we all get angry? To anyone that doesn't get angry? Oh, sounds like we all get angry. I get angry. I'm good at getting angry. And I think if I'm going to be angry, I'm going to be good at it and I'm going to use it. Yeah. Because what we know is when we're angry, if we try and suppress it or push it down or pretend we haven't got it, then it won't go away. It won't go away. It's still there. And then if we manage not to actually let it escape, but we get and then we get more angry, it builds. So if we don't use it, it'll just keep building up. And then when it does pop out of us, because it will eventually, because you won't be able to hold it all, then that's the point where we're less in charge of it and it could be a bit dangerous. But if we just use our anger, we enjoy our anger and we use it when we get it, then we dispel it. And then we've got plenty of room for the next time something else makes us angry. And because we live in a very complex environment, there will be things that make us angry. We can't stop that happening. That will always happen. There'll always be times when something makes us angry. But the trick, I suppose, is to use it as you get it. And another thing to think about is, how do I use it? It's funny, isn't it? Because lots of us have got ideas about how we, I don't know, how we make our dinner, or how we get to the cinema, but when I ask people, how do you do your anger, they don't always know, or they haven't really thought about it too much. So I think this is a nice opportunity, really, to think about your anger and think about what you do with it. How do you express it? What's your strategy? Because you need one, because we need to dispel anger. So what strategy might we use when we're angry? And I think, again, it's about finding the one that works for you. Any ideas? Anyone got any ideas what to do to get their anger out?
Take it out on your pillow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Take it out on your pillow. Is that one that works for you?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Just punch like mad at the pillow. Do you call your pillow names while you're punching it? No, I'll never know.
You did say something. No.
No, you don't call it names. No, some people do. Some people like to call it names and punch it. Some people like to kick it or throw it or jump on it, put it on the floor and jump up and down on it. So there's lots of pillows are good, aren't they? They're great.
If somebody's upset me, then I call the pillow their name and then I start punching it.
Great idea. That's good, isn't it? Yeah. And sometimes when if I'm working, sometimes I work with children in my private practice, and sometimes if someone's a bit angry there, I've got loads of cushions, and I build a big tower of cushions, and they can kick it or throw it or punch it or jump on it. And I think these are really important, because I think the younger you are, the better placed you are to learn what works for you. What about the adults? What do you do when you're really angry? Sorry? What do you do when you're really angry?
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. Okay, so that sounds as if you're not going to be angry yet.
That's a wrong answer.
If you actually get, no, it's not a wrong answer, because sometimes you're just not in the right place to express it. But if you were in a place,
walk away from the situation.
and you might do that as well. You might do that as well. This is a judgment call, isn't it? This isn't the right place to express it. Or if I express it now, it might not work well.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to not express it. So you might walk away and you might go and find somewhere else. So you found somewhere else where you feel it's more safe or more appropriate. How do you express it?
My way of like doing it is walking away from the situation and then just calming myself down and then going back to the situation after.
Yeah, that's really helpful in terms of safety of the situation. Where have you put your anger?
Where have you put your anger? Has it gone, or is it still in
No,
your mind?
it's still in me, but I'm gathering up my thoughts in my head.
Okay. Yeah. I just wonder, and then I'll leave you because I don't want to put a spotlight on you, but I just wonder, and this is just a wonder, what it would be like for you if, yes, certainly walk away if you feel that what you're going to do is not helpful. And certainly you want eventually to get to a place where you're calm. But because when you're calm, you can think differently. But there might also be a space somewhere for you where you can be angry. Because what you don't want to do is leave the anger in there. You want to get it out and enjoy it. So what other sort of strategies might people use to actually get that anger out of them? So far, we've punched a pillow.
Yeah,
Exercise.
Sorry?
Exercise.
Exercise. But if you're going to use exercise, use it in an angry way. Yeah? If you want to, a punch bag's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant idea. Because you can be really angry with a punch bag. And if you're doing something like running, run angrily, you know? Real angry run. Be angry. Because the way to get to move anger is to expel it.
Play drums.
Play the drums. Bash the hell out of the drums. Brilliant. Yeah. In an angry way. I want you to be really angry, you know? Really, really angry.
To use a stress ball.
Sorry?
To use a stress ball.
Yeah, if you've got a stress ball, and I'd throw it and I'd be angry with your stress ball. What else? What else can we do?
You could scream into your pillow.
Oh, scream, yeah. Well, go and find somewhere where you can really scream. I was working with a girl of 13 not so long ago, and she come to see me and she was just too angry to do any work. She couldn't think or do anything much because she's too angry. And when we're very angry, what happens in our heads is we make a lot more adrenaline in our brain. And adrenaline, the chemical that we call adrenaline, actually stops or mutes the frontal cortex. This part in the front of our heads, the frontal cortex, is the bit that makes us different from animals. So I know Sally likes animals, so she'll know about animals, but it makes us different from them because we can think, Sally, we can actually have ideas and reason them out. You know, we can think, oh, would that be better than that? Or should I choose that one or this one? This bit that we reason with is the frontal cortex. And when we've got a lot of adrenaline in our brain, that chemical that happens when we're angry, it pushes the chemical into the brain. This bit slows down and we can't think as well. and we can't make very good decisions. And if you watch people when they're really angry having an argument, they say some really silly things because they haven't really thought it through. And very often they have to say, oh, I'm sorry about that. I was just angry. Because when we're just angry, we can't think in the same way. So this is another good reason why we need to get rid of it so that we can start thinking and operating on a higher level. It's great. Anger's great if you just need to run away because you don't actually need to think then. You need to get out of there. So it works ever so well. It's very clever. But while we've got it, we can't think as well. So this idea of expelling it is really good for us. So this young lady came to see me. She's 13 and she just wasn't on her game at all because she was too angry. And I couldn't use my skills to work with her because she's too angry. So I said to her, I think you're really angry today. And her response showed that she was really angry. And I said, shall we do something different? And what we did was we walked to the sea because I was working in a clinic that's quite near the beach. And we walked to the sea and we found a nice quiet space where there was no one around. And we shouted at the sea. We screamed and shouted at the sea. And we both thought about how we felt before we began. And then afterwards, we thought about how we felt. And for both of us, we felt much better. We felt calmer. We felt much more relaxed. And we were much more able to think clearly because we got rid of the anger. The anger gets in the way of being rational, you see. And actually, it was great fun as well. And it was great for our relationship because after she calmed a bit and we were still shouting and screaming at the sea, we both found it very funny. So we finished up giggling and laughing together and it was very good for us. You know, it was a nice moment of sort of bonding and it was good fun. And then we were able to do the work because she was calmer and she was able to learn something that's really useful for her. That if she's feeling really angry, you need to attend to the anger first. That's what you need to do first. Don't try and bury it. Don't pretend you're not angry. Don't be afraid of it. Just go and use it. So for all of us, there's a different way to do that, one that works better for us. I like shouting at the sea. I love that one. It's great. Someone else I knew used to go to the woods and get a stick and bang it on a tree and shout rude words while they were bashing the tree because no one could hear them in the woods. So you might be thinking now, what can I do? But what I think might be helpful is to work it out before you get angry. Think about what you use for your anger. Because we don't want to hurt people. And I know, sometimes we say things that are not very nice when we're angry. And then we've got all the fuss of having to go back and say sorry and repair it all. So you might just want to think about that. But I guess my message today would be not to be frightened of your anger, but stay in charge of it. Oh, I've got some anger. Right, I'm going to go and use that. So find those strategies. You might run angrily. You might walk angrily. You might have a pillow to punch. You might, I don't know, dance. Whatever it is that helps you to get that feeling out of your body. And then when that feeling subsides, think about how you feel. Think about how it benefited you. And again, if you're suffering from anxiety, there will be times when you get really angry because you're anxious. You still get fed up. You get fed up with being anxious and it can make you feel very angry. So again, having strategies for anger can be really helpful. Are there any questions about that? Or anything you need to add? Or anything you disagree with?
Question, can anger become a habit? Like you're always angry?
No.
Okay, good.
I don't think so. I don't think it works like that. I think if you're angry, there's usually a reason. It might be because you're tired. It might be because you're hungry. It might be because you're frustrated by something. There's usually a reason behind your anger. So first of all, you need to deal with the anger, because if you want to work out how to deal with the reason, what's causing it, you're not going to do that as well until you get that anger out of you. So I don't think it's a personality thing. I don't think, some people are angry and some people aren't. But if you don't get it out of you, it will leak out of you. Do you know that? It will leak. If it doesn't explode, it will leak. And you may recognize people that sometimes they just make nasty little comments, or they're always a bit negative, or they're quite sarcastic, and that's anger. That's that passive anger that leaks out of people because they're not expressing it. So it doesn't make sense to me that people are always angry. I think if they're angry and they express it, they will feel calmer. And that's the time to think about, what was it that made me angry? Do I need to do something about that? But it's often physiological. It's often that you're tired and you get irritable, or you might be hungry. That's another sign of, or even if you're dehydrated, you might be more angry. So think about the physical self first. Or if we're overstretched, we've got far too much to do and no time to do it, we can start feeling quite angry. Any other questions or ideas that you'd like to add to that? So I suppose what we're doing today is we're building a little toolbox, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're thinking about our own mental health and whether we've got signs or symptoms of anxiety and whether it's time to do something. And then what we can do is we can find and think about, who do we talk to? So we've got an identified person to talk to. We can think about, how do we listen to others? That can go in our toolbox. Are we good listeners? And we can think about how we use anger and what our own strategy is for anger. So we can put all those in our toolbox. And we can also just carry that idea that the most important thing to all human beings is other human beings. We're relational first. Through all this pandemic and all the people I've seen and spoken to, the thing that they tell me is they miss people. There's very few other things they miss, but they miss people. They miss their extended families. They miss their work colleagues. They miss their friends, because people are so important to our mental health. So talking to people, engaging with others is really important. Don't sit on your own with it, because our own heads aren't best placed for anxiety. We just churn it round and round and round and round again, and we keep reinforcing this awfulness. We need to take it outside of our heads and share it. And when people bring it to us, because it's our turn to be the listener, we need to be in a place where we can be there and attend and not make judgments and listen and be gentle and be kind, which I'm sure you all are. But that's when we really need our gentle kindness, isn't it? So that's a little toolbox, really, isn't it, of things to think about. And you can start thinking about these things at any time. Don't have to wait till you're in the state of anxiety. You can think about now, what do I use? Who do I know? How do I talk to people? Who do I choose? It's okay to be angry. It's lovely to be angry. It's good for you to be angry. It saves your life. That's the same adrenaline that comes when you have to run like mad to save yourself. So it's good. Anger's good stuff. But Am I in charge of it? Am I taking proper charge of my anger? You know, those sort of questions are really important for you. Just going to have a quick look at these slides to see where we are. Wow, those cavemen look pretty nice, don't they? They look as though they're in the desert somewhere. Oh dear. You see, that's why we first needed anger, because there was a few of those around. So the anxiety can affect us generally in 4 different ways. Yeah. Can you all see that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
You can all see it. I've got it a little bit bigger. So it will affect the way we feel. Yeah. And when things affect the way we feel, it's our feelings that drive our thoughts. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to think about how do you feel? Because the way you feel will affect the way you think. So feelings drive thoughts, yeah? And it affects the way our body works. So we may not be able to sleep. We may not be able to sit still. We may not be able to concentrate. It really affects our body. It'll affect perhaps the way we eat. And then it affects our behavior. So feelings drive thoughts and thoughts drive behaviors. So if you're doing something different, it's not all about thinking about what you're doing. It starts with, how did I feel? And then what did I think? And what did those thoughts lead me to do? So I feel frightened and I think the world is a scary place. So I stay indoors. You see how it works? Feelings drive thoughts, thoughts drive behaviors. And when those things change, your body will change as well. You'll get signs in your body. So think about that. How do I feel? If you're feeling uncomfortable or worried, that's the time to step in and make change at that point there. Because if at that point you have a conversation with someone and talk about it, it can change the way you think about it. And if it changes the way you think about it, it will change the way you behave. So that's the pattern. Feelings drive thoughts, thoughts drive behaviors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So never underestimate the feeling. And if someone comes to talk about something, I encourage them to talk about how they feel. You know, if your friend comes and says, oh, this is really difficult, or I don't like this, or I'm upset about, you know, those ideas about, I wonder how you feel, or I wonder what it felt like. Because when I think about what I feel, I can understand why my thoughts were like that, and I can understand why I did what I did. Feelings drive thoughts, thoughts drive behaviors. Yeah. Again, I know this is being recorded, so if any of you want to go back to that and think about that, you know, do use what I've brought along today to help you. We've got just a few minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly to see if there's more of those that need to be explained.
Can I ask a question, please?
Oh, please do, yes.
Okay, I'm just asking on behalf of my son, and he struggles with anxiety. And I know that you say about like talking helps, but I just wondered, in like a moment where he hasn't got me to talk to or a teacher to talk to, like say if he's walking into school or any kind of like moments like that where you haven't got a go-to person, is there any calming, like self-calming techniques that you would suggest? Like
Lovely.
that you say to yourself?
Thanks ever so much for that. It's really useful. Yeah, there are. There's this thing called self-soothing, yeah, because we can't always have other humans around us. And you will recognize in yourself some sort of self-soothing you do. Yeah. Some people chew their nails, some people fiddle with their hair, some people take their minds into a nice place and think about something nice. There's all sorts of things we do, and they're called self-soothing. Yeah, they help us when we haven't got another person around us. And there's lots of techniques we can use. But if you're going into something that is anxiety provoking, yeah, you can tell yourself 1 or 2 stories. You can tell yourself the story of the awfulness. You know, it's going to be like this and it's going to be terrible. Or you can tell the other story of actually it's going to be okay. It's never one story. There is no one story. So you can think about that. You know, which story do I want to will be more useful to me today? So you try to take that positive story in your head with you. This is what's going to happen and it's going to be okay. Because actually, most of the time we are all okay. And then what I want you to do is when you've had the experience of it being okay, yeah, once you've been there and it's been okay, I'd like you to have a big empty jar at home. And every time something is okay, you put a 50p piece or a pound coin in that jar. Yeah. Every time it's okay, you put a little bit of money in that jar. You can talk to mum and dad about what that money's going to be. It might be 20p and it might be as much as a pound. I don't know. I don't know how rich and wonderful your parents are, but whatever you decide, you get a little reward for every time you go and it's all okay and you've taken a risk, you've gone on your own, you've told yourself the story, the best story about it, not the worst one. So it's going to be okay. And then you go and you're very brave and you do it. And then you've got a big empty jar, yeah? And when you come back, your coin that you put in that jar is evidence, yeah? So that's the evidence. If we went to court and I had to prove it's a safe world and you had to prove it's not a safe world, then what you're putting in that jar is the evidence to say the world is safe. So you put your coin in there, whatever it is, a 20p or a pound, I don't know what it is. You put it in there and that is evidence. And you can't deny it because you only got that evidence because you proved it was safe. You went, nothing happened to you. Right, so you've got evidence and that's in your jar. And then you can do it again. And if nothing awful happens or none of the awful stuff you had in your head happens, then you've proved your head wrong again. And the evidence is the coin in the jar. And I don't want you to spend these coins yet. I want you to keep putting them in a jar. Yeah, they keep going in the jar. And every time you're a bit worried about something and you're very, very brave and you've talked it through with your mum, your dad or your friend or whoever and said, I'm going to have a try and this is what I'm going to do. And you have a try because you're really brave. You confront that anxiety and you're very brave and you do it. Every time you do it, you get a coin to put in that jar. And then one day you look at that jar and it'd be full of these coins. And then you cannot deny that the world is safe because that is the evidence. That's the evidence. And when we get evidence of the world being safe when we're feeling anxious, we must store the evidence. Because actually what you're doing when you get really anxious is you're out of balance. Yeah, if you've got a set of scales, you're out of balance. And your head's telling you the world's more unsafe than safe. So when you put those coins in the jar, you keep making evidence that the world is safe. You can't deny it. It all turned out all right, and there's the proof. You've got a 20p or a pound in your jar. So this keeps saying to you and reinforcing that the world is safe because the world is safe. And then eventually you can't deny it and you get your balance back. And you realize actually the world is safe. The world is safe. Very occasionally, things that aren't very nice happen, but they're very, very occasional. And we have to live our lives. We have to go out there. Otherwise, we miss all the fun. So we have to take a little bit of risk to get change. If you don't have risks, you don't get change. Everything we do that makes a change in our lives has a little bit of risk. So when you're really brave and you say, no, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go and do this, I want you to have that coin in that jar as evidence. What do you think about that?
And that was really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, give it a try, you know, find, and if it works, keep it. Because this is about finding the things that work for you. But I think sometimes we really have to see the hard evidence because our heads play tricks. You can't deny that there's £1 in that jar, and you can't deny that it's in there because you were safe. And when there's 20, 30, 40 of those coins, you cannot deny that you were safe every time. And eventually your head will remember that, and it'll let go of some of that anxiety because it won't need it. It'll realize the world is safer. But thanks for that. It's really helpful because it allowed me to direct something at you that I know that would be helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I just want to go back on that slide for a minute. I mean, this slide really says the same thing. When we've got fear and anxiety, you'll get it in body symptoms. And then when you get the body symptoms, you'll get more anxious. So if I get really worried and I get a bit shaky, I worry about the fact that I'm shaky. Then I get more anxious. And then I get more fear, and I just keep going round and round and round. So the way to break that is to go and talk or take a little risk. And here are some of those symptoms here. So we might get a racing heartbeat. We might sometimes think we can't breathe. And sometimes if we get into a lot of this symptomatic behavior, we actually go into something we call a panic attack. I don't know if any of you have had panic attacks, but although I can't offer many guarantees, I can guarantee you that no one has ever died of a panic attack. And people get very frightened because they think, oh, I can't breathe. And, you know, I'm very frightened. I feel terrible. But actually, you will never, ever, and I promise you, die of a panic attack. The worst thing that can possibly ever happen, and it's very rare, is that you'd pass out. And if you passed out, your body would say, oh, thank goodness for that. Now I can get on with the job of bringing your heart rate down and putting your body back to normal, and then you wake up. So panic attacks won't kill you. They're just uncomfortable if you get them, but they won't hurt you. So you can be really, really frightened where you're almost paralyzed. And you can feel stressed and shaky. And you can have a sort of feeling of dread in you where you're dreading the day or you're dreading life. And you can feel a bit lightheaded and nauseous. But these are all quite high symptoms. But again, this is definitely time to talk. So yeah, there's a range of things there. You might even get a bit of pins and needles and tingly fingers. And you might wonder if you're going mad. A lot of people wonder if they're not, you know, am I going mad? Is this normal? Well, yes, it is normal. You know, we'll all have times when we feel very stressed and anxious, and it's not abnormal. It just needs some strategies to bring you back into where you should be. Okay, I think that's pretty much, we've covered pretty much all of those slides now. Just got a couple of minutes if there are any last questions or anything more I can be useful with. And can I, before I do anything else, can I just thank all you kids because I know how difficult it is for you guys to be sitting around for 2 hours. It's a lot for you, and you're all amazing. You've all managed to stay with me, and thank you so much. And you've actually shared a lot today, which I think has been lovely, and it's very helpful for me. It reminds me of where you are. So thanks ever so much for your patience. And I know that children are a different culture to adults, and they most of the time like to be more active than just sitting. So if you've just been sitting, thank you very much for that. If there are no other questions, I'm going to let you all go now. But I know this is being recorded, so if there's anything there that you need, then please ask for it. If you need to be in touch with me, then Christina's got my details. So yeah, if I can be helpful, let me know. And it just really remains for me to say thanks very much. Thanks ever so much.
Thank
And
you.
it's really nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Can I just quickly say to everyone that thanks for joining today. As Julia said, the session is recorded. I've put my email on the chat box. If anybody would like the session, please, you can send me an email, ask your parents for permission, or ask your parents to send the email. I'll send the recorded session to you. And then feedback is welcomed as well. So we'll appreciate your feedback as well. You can put that in email. And also the next workshop is on the 10th of April. That's in a fortnight. That's in 2 weeks time, 10th of April. So we'll send more information out about that. Thank you ever so much and see you soon.
Okay, thank you everybody.
Thanks
Bye.
very much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.